Imagine a teenager barely 16 years old, deceiving major banks, flying around the world for free, and checking into luxury hotels and restaurants without ever paying. Just one person, with extraordinary intelligence and unbelievable charisma, managed to trick the biggest institutions on the planet. His name? Frank Abagnale. In this video, we'll reveal the full story of the smartest and boldest forger in history, from his innocent childhood through his insane adventures in impersonation and fraud, to his eventual capture and astonishing transformation from a global criminal into a respected security consultant. Get ready to experience a journey filled with intelligence, daring, and risk. The story of Frank Abagnale. A story so incredible it feels like a movie, yet it's 100% real. Frank Abagnale was born in New York in 1948 in a modest neighborhood to a middle-class father and mother. His childhood was full of curiosity and early intelligence. From a young age, he observed every little detail in his parents' behavior, especially the constant disputes between them over money and their personal lives. This created in him a sense of loneliness and fear, but at the same time, it sparked a love for observation and analyzing people. His first practical lesson in manipulation came at age 12, when he used his father's credit card to buy candy from a nearby store. He used his smile and confident speech to convince the cashier that the transaction was legitimate. This was when he realized that intelligence and a deep understanding of human behavior could open doors he never imagined. After his parents' official divorce, a shocking event for him, Frank began to feel that the world was unfair and that he needed to create his own ways to survive and excel. He started keeping daily notes about human behavior and how people handled money and power. These notes became his first evidence of strategic thinking and long-term planning. During this early period, Frank would observe shops, banks, and government offices, imagining how small loopholes could be exploited. Slowly, he developed his own style of observation and disguise, which would later become the foundation for all his great forgery operations and make him the young man who traveled between cities and countries with astonishing tricks, deceiving even the largest institutions in the world. When Frank came of age, his sense of rebellion against conventional life grew stronger, especially after the divorce left him without a stable emotional support. At 15, he began leaving home without permission, testing his limits and exploring the outside world. His first practical experiences involved using his father's credit card to buy candy from a nearby store, but over time, these experiments evolved into bolder operations. Frank would observe stores and bank offices, noting weak security measures, and use his intelligence to breach these systems almost professionally, allowing him to pass off fake financial transactions without anyone suspecting him. After leaving home completely around 16, he started living a semi-nomadic life, moving between American cities, sometimes staying in luxury hotels without paying, and sometimes at new friends' houses, quickly gaining their trust with his intelligence and charisma. This taught him that the trust he created in others was key to success in future forgery operations. At this stage, he began thinking about large-scale impersonation for the first time, focusing on something that would give him social status and respect: aviation. He started forging airline documents and created a fake Pan Am ID, wearing an official pilot uniform he obtained by tricking a specialty clothing store. He began taking flights around the world for free, seizing every opportunity to experience high-end hotels and restaurants. Each time, he observed people, analyzed their reactions, noted notes, and refined his methods to become smarter and more skilled. During this period, he realized he could also use his skills to forge checks. He began printing fake checks and cashing them in banks strategically, choosing distant branches to allow time before detection. He meticulously copied signatures and stamps, making the checks nearly impossible to detect at first. Simultaneously, he experimented with impersonating multiple professions: a pediatrician in a hospital, a lawyer, even a university professor. Each time he used his social intelligence and charisma to create a convincing image, interacting with people in ways that made them believe him easily. Over time, Frank became fully aware of banks' and companies' security measures and learned to leave small loopholes in each operation to avoid immediate detection. Still, he sometimes felt tension and fear of being caught, but this risk was part of the thrill for him. During this stage of his life, he started gaining international attention, traveling between U.S. states and occasionally to Canada and Europe. The FBI noticed his activity and began monitoring him as one of the most dangerous fugitives, but he always stayed one step ahead, moving lightly and exploiting legal system weaknesses in each country he visited. This period built Frank Abagnale's reputation as the smartest young forger in the world, with his teenage experiences forming the foundation of his genius in planning and deception, preparing him for even greater adventures that would make him a true legend in the world of forgery. At 16, Frank took his first steps into professional forgery, targeting aviation to gain social status and respect. He exploited weak airline security, forged Pan Am documents, and wore an official pilot uniform he obtained by tricking a specialty clothing store. He began taking flights around the world for free, staying in luxury hotels, dining in fine restaurants without paying, all while observing employees and passengers, analyzing their reactions, and noting exploitable gaps. He kept daily notes and planned every move meticulously, turning each operation into practical training in forgery and impersonation. After gaining confidence in aviation, Frank entered the world of banking and check fraud, creating extremely accurate fake checks. He chose distant branches to delay detection and expertly copied signatures and stamps, fooling ordinary employees. Over time, his audacity grew. He began targeting larger, more prestigious branches, cashing huge amounts, surprising banks with the speed and precision of his operations. He amassed millions of dollars before 20. At the same time, he continued experimenting with multiple impersonations: a pediatrician in a hospital, a lawyer, even a university professor. Each time he used his charisma and social intelligence to convince people of his new identity, moving lightly between cities to avoid detection. Meanwhile, authorities, especially the FBI, began noticing him. He was regarded as one of the most dangerous fugitives, yet he always stayed one step ahead, choosing cities and branches carefully and exploiting weaknesses in coordination between banks and states. This period was pivotal, combining self-learning, sharp observation, and daring, skills that would later make him a global legend in forgery and deception, preparing him for international adventures. In 1969, after years of forgery, impersonation, and traveling across the US and Europe, Frank was caught in France when a flight attendant recognized his fake identity in Montpellier and alerted the authorities. Upon arrest, he felt the sting of defeat for the first time, betrayed by a stranger. Despite fear, he kept his composure, using his intelligence to delay exposure of his larger frauds. He was imprisoned in Montpellier, facing tight cells, constant surveillance, and interactions with hardened criminals, learning patience and keen observation. He was later transferred to prisons in Sweden and finally to the US to face American authorities. During this journey, he monitored every step, analyzing security measures, applying his skills in planning and disguise, and adapting quickly to new environments. Upon arrival, he was sentenced to 12 years in a US prison. He remained resourceful, exploiting opportunities to escape or manipulate minor procedures, keeping strong even behind bars. During his early prison years, the FBI offered an unprecedented deal: work as a consultant on fraud detection, and his sentence would be reduced. Frank's expertise in deceiving people became a legal tool to help authorities. After release, he founded Abagnale & Associates, consulting for banks and companies worldwide, teaching how to detect fraudsters. His practical experience in check forgery and multiple impersonations made him an unparalleled expert.
In the mid-1980s, he wrote Catch Me If You Can, documenting his adventures and methods, inspiring new generations. The book became a Hollywood film starring Leonardo DiCaprio, spreading his story to millions globally, portraying him as the smartest forger in history, but now in an educational and entertaining way. Over the years, Frank continued consulting, appearing on TV shows and interviews, focusing on financial security and fraud detection. He emphasized that his skills originated from childhood observation and learning, which could have led to disaster if misused. The lesson from Frank Abagnale's life is profound. Intelligence and cunning are double-edged swords, capable of destruction or creation depending on how they are applied.